Greetings. My name is Michael. I have significant and varied education and experience as an instructional designer, educator, trainer, supervisor, and agent. I am passionate about helping others develop into the best forms of themselves. I have decided to create videos as I run into things I find particularly valuable in my career. Currently, the videos will focus on course development and articulate storyline. Most will be interactions where I was not able to easily locate a tutorial or other guide, and others will be those I have found instruction on, but was particularly useful. Some of the coolest interactions go unused because they require careful, creative, and sometimes complicated use of tools. Storyline has a lot of pre-made tools and stock interactions available to you, but it also gives you the resources to make all sorts of your imaginings. Other times, custom interactions will require a bit of trickery. The creative use of tools and objects for out-of-the-box purposes can be a fun endeavor. Whether using the tools for their designated purposes or employing a bit of trickery, a carefully prepared, interactive activity can be both fun to create and valuable to the learner. I hope that you find this video useful. For one of the change management courses I created, I wanted to have a maze as a sort of game mechanism. I did a brief search to see what people had already done around maze interactions. All of the information I found did not have any sort of actual movement through the maze. They were all based on moving between slides that were carefully laid out to indicate the changing position. I ended up creating one that remained on the same slide and utilized relative motion paths and triggers. We will now walk through the creation of the fundamental setup. At this point, we have already selected and sized our main images, a set of arrows, the maze, and something needing to traverse the maze. We are going to think of the maze as a set of 16 positions. The maze is a square with sides that are 600 pixels. We will first create a template to help us with where to position our miner. With 4 positions down each side, that gives us a length of 150 pixels for our template. We will create our first side of the template and visually match the width of the lines of the maze. It looks like 10 pixels. With our first side created, we move to the other 3. Since it is a square, we will go ahead and copy the first side to create the other ones. We need to be careful to have the sides all meet at their respective endpoints. Now that the square is created, we will add 2 more line segments to find the middle of the square. It is helpful to group all 6 segments to make certain we don't have any issues with dragging them apart when we move the template. I use a corner of the maze to check that my template is looking correct. The completed template is now used to place our miner in one of the 16 positions. We could define a 17th position outside of the maze, but for the sake of simplicity, we will keep the miner in the maze until he successfully completes it. We can finally begin giving our miner some movement. First, we must figuring out how much he gets to move each time. There are 4 moves in any one direction, but instead of using the full 600 pixels, we need to account for the 20 pixels, 10 on each side of the maze, that the miner will never cross. Running our new calculation gives us a length for the motion paths of 145 pixels. We will need to create a motion path for up, down, left, and right. The main thing to remember is that each motion path must be set to have a relative start point. That will move the miner the direction and distance we set, but from wherever he currently is. Without the relative start point, the miner will only move between the 2 points exactly where they are on the screen. Again, we must be careful to have the motion path going the correct direction and length. I'm also bumping the duration of the motion path down so the miner moves faster. If you haven't noticed, I am a big proponent of naming objects, particularly if they are ones that I am going to be referencing and needing to differentiate from other objects around them. To complete the miner's left motion, we need to create a trigger to have him move when we want. When we created the motion path, it created a trigger as well. We will go ahead and edit it to the setting we need. We will set the event of the trigger to user clicking the left arrow, but give it limits on when this is allowed. Remember, we are assigning these 16 positions, so we need to not allow the miner to turn left when it would put him through a wall. In order to do that, we will create a numeric variable with the default value matching the miner's original position. Then we will create conditions that disallow left movement when he is at one of those positions. With our left movement trigger in place, we need another trigger to update the position when the miner does move left. We only want the position to change if the miner successfully moves to the left, so we will copy the movement trigger with its conditions and instead set it adjust our position variable. Moving left from any position will result in a decrease of 1, moving right will increase by 1, up will increase by 4, and down will decrease by 4. For anyone with a math background, this is modular arithmetic. One key fact to remember is that triggers on the same object will run top-down, so it is important that the position not update until the movement is initiated. We need to keep the move trigger above the position trigger. If we do not, the position variable will update first, then the movement will be checked. Very quickly, the miner's picture and position variable will end up not matching. Now, through the magic of television, we quickly run through the same process with the other 3 directions. Now we are ready to test our interaction. First, let's add a variable reference for the position variable, so we can make certain the miner's position matches the variable. Secondly, I close the entrance so that I don't forget that the miner should not be allowed out of that position. Everything looks to be working and matching. If you want to play with the full version of the course I created, you can interact with it at michaelhuesman.com.